thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Thumbs up, y'all. Like, share, and subscribe. Let's see here. Like, share, and subscribe. (516-418-5867). That's the number to call in. If you want to call in, the number is at the bottom of the podcast YouTube page. Ladies and gentlemen, we are basically live, okay? Giving you your evening vitamin here tonight. And, man, we have often talked about the Congressional Black Caucus. We actually talked about the National Association of Black Journalists. We talked about the National Association of Black Farmers, or however you describe their organization. National Association of Black Accountants. And the list goes on and on and on and on and on about Black folks starting organizations that don't do a damn thing. You understand? Black people, let me say that again, starting organizations that don't do a damn thing for Black folks. The National Association of Black Journalists. Okay, the National Association of Black Attorneys or Black Lawyers. All of these organizations that don't do a damn thing for Black people. You see, when we make progress, it is only us on the grassroots level going out there raising hell in the streets. You see, we're talking about Black organizations who's been around for years, not doing a damn thing for Black people. And that's kind of, it's going to be the gist of what we're going to be talking about when we say that we as Black people should move away from thinking that we have a minority coalition. It was the late, great Dr. John Henry Clark who taught us we have no friends. Rest in power to the late General Dr. John Henry Clark. He said that Black people have no friends. And so therefore, when Black people create organizations under white supremacy system and white domination, what they're saying to us is that when we're going to allow Uncle Sam, as Malcolm called it, to determine what our organization should be about. And no, we're not going to, talk to you about getting resources for us. We're not going to talk to you about making sure that there's accountability and punishing these race soldiers who harms us out in the streets. See, no, that's not the accountability that these so-called Black organizations want for the Black community. Because if that happens, if we start to gain power, then a lot of these Black people who is supposed to be quote unquote leaders, that's will not have a job. Speaking of leaders, Millie Fuller taught us, and he taught us is that a leader is just more than somebody who have an oratorical style. Millie Fuller taught us that a leader is just more than somebody who is a mic controller or MC who's able to do more than just say, oh, I can speak well. A leader does not make you a leader. I mean, a leader, a good speaker doesn't make you a leader. As Nellie Ford taught us, is that leaders is basically men and women who do things constructive for the race. When a black person, as Nellie Ford taught us, is doing something constructive, that's a threat to white supremacy. That's the threat to the white power structure, you see. And I want to go into this topic by even piggyback for what Nellie Fuller was saying. Nellie Fuller was telling us that we are very constructive for the white supremacists when we work on their jobs. And then he said, all right, Negroes, y'all go and you turn these, he'll have either him or he'll have some old bootlicking Negro who's going to be the lead. All right, go over there and y'all, tear down those boxes. And when you tear down the boxes, there are going to be some products in there and you put them on the shelf. And you're going to do that and then you'll get off at 6 o'clock in the morning, right? That's black people. That's Pookie and Ray Ray. They're basically doing something what? Constructive for who? The white supremacists. But Nellie Ford taught us that when we go home or get the weekend off that we start drowning ourselves into drinking, smoking, going out, maybe shooting and killing, keeping the neighborhood terrorized. We do all of that stuff on the weekend, right? And then back on Monday, you're back at work doing what? Something constructive for the white supremacists. You understand? So the white supremacist then got you doing something constructive. And then he got you doing things non-constructive on your day off. And then you go out there and shoot and kill each other. You go out there and raise hell and stuff until the white supremacist race soldiers show up and say, all right, enough of that foolishness. All right. Now who started it? They come in and they are the people who are the determinants, like a police officer, because he's the one that determines, if he's going to then take somebody in or let somebody go. So laws and rules are only as good as their enforcers, as Amos Wilson taught us. But when we talk there about leadership, we're talking about, hey, man, if you made a phone call, you got a jam, the white supremacists got you jammed up, and all you have to do is make a phone call to somebody down there at the police station or whoever, these race socialists got you. And if they don't let you go or anything, okay, well, I'm coming down there and we showing up. You see what I'm saying? Kind of almost like what happened in Malcolm's situation. And that's a leader, because that man is not willing, is willing to die for what he believes in. You understand? And that's the reason then why it is very difficult to call organizations that I just mentioned leaders, because a congressional black caucus does not have leaders. You see, we basically, when I told you that we allow white people to define words for us, that is very dangerous. That's the reason why black people are at the bottom of everything. When some other race is defining to you what leaders is, they're defining to you what the organization is going to be. When you look at the Congressional Black Caucus website, you will learn is that nothing over there to suggest that they're leaders of black people. Everything on there talking about diversity, criminal justice reform. And criminal justice reform is just like healthcare. It changes every year or so. We're going to say that we're going to continue to kill you niggers, but then we're going to continue to give you pass laws that suggest that we're going to have criminal justice reform. And in retrospect, if you ask them what that means, they don't have an answer for you. Well, we're going to better train police officers and blah, 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 blah. But what is happening still? Police officers are still what? Shooting and killing. You understand? So when a person is leading, the ideal here is that leadership has to be that the person is willing to risk their lives in order for that person to be determined a leader. And that's the reason why we want to get on the subject matter of why there is no minority coalition. And before I do that, well, I am willing to take a call. Let's do that. Let's go out to area code 941. You're live with Lawyer Henderson. What is your name and where you calling from?
Today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
One, I wanted to let you know that your volume is very low. You're very difficult to hear.
Okay, that's
what I do. Adjust your mic, your volume.
Okay, I asked everybody to go on YouTube Live, sir, to listen to me. That's why I asked you to come on YouTube Live. What are you listening at? Where are you listening to me at? Hello? All right, so.
I'm here.
All right, yeah. Yeah, so yeah, if you're listening to the show, go to YouTube Live and listen, because I don't know what's going on with Blog Talk Radio. We've been asking them about the sound, and we're fit to get ready and get another platform that's going to help us with the sound. But anyway, on YouTube Live, I go back and I look at everything on YouTube, and YouTube assumes the sound is always good. So it doesn't matter if you call in to talk about, well, you can't hear me on Blog Talk Radio, which is our national program, but you can also definitely hear us on YouTube, and then also the callers can hear you. So every now and then we get people like that to say that all the time. But anyway, let's talk more still about what a leader is supposed to produce. And we were talking about what a leader is supposed to produce, and you cannot be a leader without, being willing to die in that leadership. You see, a leadership doesn't just come with all kinds of rewards, thinking that everything is going to be all gravy. And then you basically saying, well, shoot, I want just part of the leadership, not all. Okay. Well, a leader is expected to be always in harm's way. When our sister Sasha Johnson got shot in the UK, okay, we're not, she's not a quote unquote leader, but she's put herself in that position of going out speaking for the rights of Black people in the United Kingdom. That person become a threat to white supremacy, because that person is saying, instead of us going out drinking and doing all this crap, well, we're going to be talking about this Black power stuff, and that's how it's going to be. And you see now how she was shot in the head. And basically, they're trying to say there was some Black men who did it, some young Black boys, but they're now coming out saying that they're not really sure. You see, you got to really understand that, like I said, white supremacy, they do the same thing. How many times have they shot and killed other leaders in the Black community? And then we're finding out years later that the police was involved, the FBI and all these other folks was involved. Okay? So it does lead us into our subject of today, and that is that Dr. John Henry Clark taught us that we have no friends. So why are we still talking about this minority coalition, this black and brown coalition? Okay, thumbs up, thumbs up. Everybody come to YouTube, come to YouTube. And YouTube actually got us on a shadow ban. YouTube got all the black news, underground news for people under a shallow ban. So they're basically they're going to all of the channels where we're talking about some black empowerment stuff, and they're flagging those channels. They're taking them out of the algorithm and all that stuff so that the channels will not be promoted within the YouTube family, and people who wants to listen to our commentary. Okay. But we don't have a minority coalition, black folks. We don't have friends. And that's the reason why you cannot sit in an organization and talk about diversity when it defeats your whole purpose. As Dr. Claude Anderson said, you're talking about that minority and diversity stuff. That defeats the whole purpose of you being a black organization. See, black folks like to bring everybody else into their inner circle, and those people come into the inner circle and they get all the resources, and then we are left empty-handed. And that's the problem. And that's the reason why you cannot try to think that you have a coalition with anybody else. It was Jim Crow Joe Biden who said that you guys, talking about black folks, telling these civil rights leaders, you guys got to start working with the Hispanics. And there's a question as to why Jim Crow Joe Biden want black people to work with the Hispanics. Because the Hispanics are more likely to lay down for white daddy and white mommy. They're not going to question anything. You understand? See, in the grassroots, we have that building of questioning. We have the ways to get the white supremacists' attention by turning up in the streets. Other races of buffer classes don't have that energy. They want to be the buffer class of the white supremacists. But I want you to hear, to get us going deep into our topic of the day of Dr. John Henry Clark, talking about black folks and how black people are getting caught up too much in religion, getting too caught up into other things, and allowing white people and other people to sell us things, allowing religion to mess with our mind. Now, as he said, and I agree, we're not against religion. But what we're saying here is that watch how it has been used to make black people feel bad. Now, listen here.
The handmaiden of Arab imperialism. Christianity was the handmaiden of European imperialism. The Hebrew faith was the handmaiden of a concept called the chosen people. Now, if God is kind and God is merciful and God has no step-children, he won't choose one over the other. And to say he chose some people, you're making him a bigot. And to say that he endorsed enslavement of one people over the other, you're making him an accessory to murder.
Absolutely.
The Arabs
Now, that's very important to understand. this almighty, all-powerful God, you got people out here rationalizing our enslavement by saying that it was okay to enslave black people. And as Dr. Dr. Clark taught us, is that, okay, you're making him an accessory to murder by saying that it was okay for whites and the Muslims to enslave African people. Okay? But let's go on with this here as to why we don't have any real, true minority coalition.
Islam to rationalize their slavery and their imperialism. The Europeans used Christianity to rationalize their slavery and imperialism. Who are you kidding about friends in the world? Damn it, if you want a friend, look in the mirror. There's a billion African people on the face of this earth. Why are you buying third-rate junk from third-rate people thinking you can't make it? Why don't you at least make a safety pin to hold your child's diaper together? Teach. Who has programmed your mind in thinking you can't make a car? The first man that made a car, they had never seen one previously. The Japanese bought cars, bought locomotives, broke them down and studied them, and had a Japanese technician produce each piece, put it together, and had a much better train than the one they copied from. All knowledge in the world belongs to everybody in the world. Yes. Who has programmed our mind in assuming that we cannot run a nation and run it well?
Right.
The main thing imperialism did, slavery and imperialism, they removed African people from the respectful commentary of history. And they tell them something they are still telling them, and all of the Hellenized religions are guilty of this. I favor none of it because Africa didn't need any of it. I'm saying that African belief systems, properly understood, is 10 times better than Judaism, Christianity, and Islam.
Okay, yeah. And see, and that's the point that Dr. Clark makes a lot in his speeches. He talks about, male chauvinists in religion, whereas, as you see in every religion, it is basically men did this, men dominate this, men dominate that, men dominate this. Even if you go and look at all these other religions and people who claim that their ideology is not religion, like the Hebrew Israelites, all of these folks basically, have this same ideology of, of being very monogamous, they basically have this ideology of men are supposed to be here, women are supposed to be in this place and stuff like that. If you look at the Nation of Islam, all due respect, we have not seen a black, dark-skinned Nation of Islam leader at all. And we were thinking that Dr. Khalid Muhammad would have been the perfect person, respectfully, to take Louis Farrakhan's place as he get, retired. But you see what happened to Dr. Khalid. So what we're saying is that there's not really, in our sense of organizations who believe and talk about freedom of black folks, really we have to question our ideology within those organizations. How Dr. Clark, though, breaks it down, examine it for us, and then feed us the information to understand. Okay, if we're basically in a minority coalition, if we're basically supposed to really have everybody helping each other, then why is only one race and everybody's attacking us? Like we've said in the black community, everybody, the LGBT community, the gay community, All these other people, Jews, all these folks use black people to get what they want, and then when they get what they want, or they have us mascotting for them, and then when we also get our plight in at the government level, you see it turns into a multicultural situation. See, this is the type of questioning that black folks should be after. You understand? And that also should be with the Congressional Black Caucus, the Association of Black Journalists, the National Association of Black Farmers, NAACP, other civil rights leaders. We do not have true black leadership. And they keep selling us out. And that's the reason why we know that we don't have a minority coalition. But I want to continue. We're almost done here because he's getting to the juice of what we need to talk about.
So you might have some romance with one of these religions. I have no romance with any of them. I have a romance with reality and truth.
Right.
And the chips can fall where they may after I tell it. As for friends, you have had no friend. When they discovered you, they began to prey on you. Now let's look at our relationship with Western Asia, mistakenly called the Middle East. For 3,000 years, our greatest enemies came from Western Asia. They were trying to avenge the fact that they were once African colonies. You read a book called When Egypt Ruled the East, and you get some of the basic information on this. Now, the first visitors to Africa came in the 1700s BC. These were the people who would later be called Hebrews. Now, black people are ticklish on this because black people think that everything in the Bible is true. I question the intelligence of anyone who thinks everything in the Bible is true or supposed to be true. It's allegory, stories told to illustrate a point at a time when there were very few people reading books.
Right.
And most of what went into the making of the Bible was copied from Egyptian texts. Now, if you want to get so dewy-eyed over the Bible, which is a carbon copy of a carbon copy, why don't you go back and read the original Egyptian text?
Right.
Then you see where all these stories started from. You see where the story of the Exodus started from. Now, you can so dewy-eyed, you actually think there was an Exodus. These people walked into Africa. Why couldn't they walk out? Why did they have to go by sea? Why did the sea have to part? If you read Egyptian literature, you will discover that the whole story of somebody parting the sea started with about 3,000 years before the Hebrew entrance. I should not use the word Hebrew entrance, for the entrance for Western Asia. Now let's get one thing straight, because black people are confused about all religions.
Right.
Now, I'm not against any religion. I'm a very spiritual human being. I just don't need a preacher to preach no 10 Commandments to me when he's a backslider going with some other man's wife. I'm intelligent enough to pick from the 10th Commandment, not commandments anyway, but they were omissions of purity at the great school at Luxor, great African training school.
All right. So that's what we're saying here. You know, a lot of things that we do in the church, we basically take certain things and that basically make us go and do all the wrong things and then try to justify what we do. You know, that's how Christianity in their version got us, doing and conducting. And I think a lot of time, because black men, we leave the church when we learn the truth and we respectfully understand what the church is about, then we often leave the church. And that's very important, because you supposed to go there, of course, to get your spiritual food. So when you have a pastor not really teaching you, breaking down where this Bible came from, like he said, with the terminology of the Egyptians and all this stuff, when that Bible has been used to manipulate you, and black folks have been manipulated by the Bible for years. When that happens, and when there's other issues that happen, people can use that as well against you. The Jewish people used the Bible very cleverly. I hope that's a word against black folks. Oh man, they use the Bible against us all the time. And one of the things that they do, because black people, we are made to integrate, right? We are made to think that everybody should get along. And you would think that that's supposed to be what it is, but it's not. Black people are basically everybody's tool. As in the science project in psychology, Amos Wilson talked about the rat. Everybody is picking on the rat. The rat is shocked when he does something good, when he does something bad, his psychological issues and stuff. Every time that rat is shocked, you understand? That is the person who has always been picked on. Okay? Black people go into psychology not understanding that they are the rat. I mean that metaphorically. I'm sorry, I'm just talking metaphorically there. But everybody pick on us because we are made to integrate. And the ideal is that prior to COVID-19 and prior to, everything shutting down, black people were still giving billions and billions of dollars to Asians. And of course, white daddy and white mommy, y'all didn't want to pass them up. And the whole thing is that we still had that mindset of minority coalition. Now, this is, like I said, this is not the first time that black people stopped and decided, well, we're going to do business with each other. We did the same thing in the 90s where we started buying black and said, I'm black and I'm proud, and we started spending money with each other. And then we continued then to be convinced by other people, oh no, it's not a black thing. Why, you black folks, y'all should come and spend money with us because blah, 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 this. And then we moved away from that. So we have Asians then who got billions and billions of dollars, and a lot of course, white people who got billions and billions of dollars, and this redistribution of wealth, because after COVID, they continue to claim that they experience issues in their business, and so did black people. There's a report that claims that minorities, had gotten, or black folks had gotten $44 billion, which most of that money went to Asians. They had more Asian businesses receiving PPP funding than any other minority group in this country. You understand? So when we talk there about having a minority so-called coalition, we don't have people who represent black folks in a sense, because other people are looking out for themselves, and then black people will then set up organizations, and the organization is all about helping everybody else, like LGBT. We're going to diversify. How do you have a majority of black folks in your organization and you're talking about diversity? That's foolish. Who does that? Do you have Asian people talking about diversity? You have Hispanics talking about diversity? No. They strictly talk about the problems and the needs of their constituency. Okay? That's the reason why today's subject is no more with this foolish talk of a minority coalition, because we don't have a minority coalition. Let's speak on it here. This is almost on the subject, but it's on the subject here. Okay. Reading the House passage. Okay. Of the police reform bill was no more than a small victory coming in the middle of the COVID-19 pandemic. Historic job losses, economic dislocation, and more police killings, all of which have taken a fearsome toll across Black America. Okay? The summer of frustration, protests, and violence in the street tells a story quite different from legislative success. When you look in terms of influence, the CBC, talking about the Congressional Black Caucus, would seem to be at the apex of its power, says Catherine Tate, a Brown University political science professor who has studied the Black Caucus. But you have African Americans also saying, what has all this power in Washington gotten us? You see, you have to understand that when you have organizations like the Congressional Black Caucus, or you have organizations like the National Association of Black Journalists, ask yourself what kind of goals that they're trying to get within that organization. And you will find that most of them always talk about diversity, LGBT stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's never about Black empowerment. That is an issue that we're focusing on. This is the issue. Organizations in the Black community are designed never to empower Black people. Why? Because it works for the Black people who are claiming that they're for us, moreover, just like it worked for the dominant society. That's the reason then why they don't want to continue to talk about Black empowerment, because they will lose the same job that their masters have given them. And that is to then lie to us and talk about a Black and Brown coalition, to talk about, well, we need to start working with the Hispanics. And what does that mean? What do working with other groups mean? What do that entail? How do we benefit for working with the Hispanics? Are we going to basically go back into what they back in the civil rights days and think that working with the Hispanics is going to bring us some type of interracial sex? Is that why we're working with the Hispanics? Are we going to be working with the Asians for interracial sexual access? Is that the reason why you want us to speak with the Hispanics? What is our purpose, okay, of Joe Biden's, decision to say that we should be working with Hispanics? Why? What is the point for that? You understand? They cannot tell you us the purpose of working with the Hispanics. The article goes on to read, though, that the skepticism is one of the factors that powered the progressives to victory in this year's primaries, and is making some longtime Democrats, including longtime Congressional Black Caucus members, nervous about any Tea Party-like developments on the left. The progressives' attack on corporate power attacks those of Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren, set them apart from a number of the Congressional Black Caucus more prominent members. Historically, Black candidates have faced more difficulties raising money, even though they are typically spent less on their campaigns than white candidates. Coming from low and moderate income Black districts, they know campaign contributions are inconceivable luxury for the majority of their constituents. Many had little choice but to turn to small business donors, and for some, corporate donors too. and as black candidates came to represent districts that also stretched and to include more well-to-do suburbs, it became easier to identify and court wealthier individuals and tapped into other networks. And that is where I want to stop to talk about. You see, these black candidates that runs for office, as we know, get wealthier donors behind them. The politicians they got the politicians, these black politicians, in their pockets. They're in the pockets of these black politicians because they're more over the wealthier donors. It's not like black people finance candidates. You understand? So they got dirt on these black politicians that if you go out and do something, nigga, all right, we're going to bring you into the focus of the news media and there's going to be a scandal. So the question is that do we rely upon black candidates and black politicians and black organizations to empower black people when everybody else got them? Excuse me. We don't have them. You see, people finance Cory Booker. Okay? People finance Kamala Harris before she became the vice president. Black people are financed by wealthier white donors. And they joined this coalition to say, no, you are not going to be talking about those poor black constituents back in Baltimore. Why, you're going to be talking about this LGBT agenda. And Negro, if you don't do that, then what I'm going to do is I got some dirt on you and you've been sleeping with some prostitutes and knowing you're married. You understand? So all of these black political politicians who even think that they're going to do something for black folks. Like, remember, the first original bill, HR 40 bill, was by Congressman, what's his name? Who had to step down, Representative. It's going to come to me. He had to step down because of some foolish stuff. Because of just basic things that, if you're doing anything that's going to help black folks, well, we're going to find something against you. You understand? So don't be thinking that you're going to come here and talk about these Negroes. And see, this has been the white people's agenda against us since day one, since we left the plantation. If you look at, like I said, Reconstruction, look at the Jim Crow years, look at redlining, look at all of the systems that they set up, and it doesn't matter what their argument is, it has always have been white men on top, black men on bottom. It has always been the same. Nothing has changed here. Representative Conyers. Okay. They found some dirt on Representative Conyers because, he just kept on trying to introduce this reparation bill. And it was like, this nigga keep on trying to introduce this bill, And now that he's dead at the age of 90, he lived a great life. But every time he will basically introduce this bill, it gets no real fraction, no real movement. Not even at that time, the people in the Congressional Black Caucus was really on it. In fact, I did go back and look at my YouTube video where I did a commentary where I showed you that he basically that he invited Dr. Claude Anderson. Okay. He invited Dr. Claude Anderson to a reparations conference. Okay. When he invited Dr. Claude Anderson to the reparations conference, it was basically, they laid the foundation of everything that the Congress needed to know, or this hearing or whatever needed to know. You see, like I said, the white supremacists and the white people who run this country, they have to continue to make everything that we do weaker and weaker by bringing people who in the Black community will sell us out and become weaker and weaker than the original thing. Now, for instance, like the civil rights bills. We had civil rights bills in the 1800s, 1870s. Now you want another civil rights bill to make what? The whole issue weaker, weaker, and weaker. You understand? And that's the reason then why the Congressional Black Caucus don't do nothing for Black people. That's the reason why they want us to, to keep on following the Democrats and trying to get us to believe that we can blame the Democrats or we can blame Republicans so that they can basically say that we should not attack white supremacy. Okay? So they finally got Representative John Conyers when they said that he violated. So, well, let me read it here. According to CNN, the Michigan Democrat faced an investigation by the House Ethics Committee into multiple allegations that he had sexually harassed women who worked with him when he told a Detroit area radio show that he stepped down from his seat in Congress. My legacy can't be compromised or diminished in any way by what we're going through now, he told Mildred Gaddis radio show at the time. This too shall pass, Conyers repeatedly denied wrongdoing. Okay. So there's a lot of white politicians who's out there going overseas, sleeping with all kinds of young girls or even young boys. There's Senator Representative Gates right now. He has a scandal going on right now. See, white people gets away with a lot of stuff. This man is still in his position, this Representative Gates, after scandal after scandal after scandal. You see, and that harkens back to what I was telling you all about the rules and the laws, as Amos Wilson taught us, are only good as their enforcers. You see, anytime somebody look at the color of your skin and basically say, well, see, nigger, I'm going to basically make sure you are punished, but then a white person do the same thing and is accused of the same thing, well, there needs to be a further investigation, and we're going to then look into this and look into that, and let's not jump to conclusions. You see what I'm saying? That's white-splaining. You understand? That then means that they have to white-splain a lot of stuff so that the white person is not taken into custody or having to step down as well. So former Representative John Conyers, when he later died, of course, and he had to resign in 2017, then you had Sheila Jackson Lee that had taken over the bill, and then she put some components, brought some people who did not know what the hell they're talking about None of them was close to being experts of slavery. And then on top of that, she brought the two most bootlicking Negroes you can ever find to even come and have a conversation later on after the debate was over. How do you get Larry Elder and Herschel Walker to talk about the discussion of reparations when these Negroes have sold us out years ago? You understand? That shows us that she was not really, she was not serious about putting this on the forefront. You see, white people have black folks who make sure that they continue their to be comfortable because they don't want to upset white daddy and white mommy. So they have certain types of black people who say, all right, yeah, I got the Negroes thinking that we're going to give them reparations, but we're not going to give these Negroes nothing, you see. And so therefore, because they know that, man, if black people get reparations, man, we'll be doing a lot of stuff here. The reason of the PPP loan was the redistribution of wealth for whites and then to give money to Asians. It wasn't really about, the COVID-19 virus. They needed to have that excuse so they can then move on to the redistribution of wealth. But anyway, that's another subject here. So when we say that we have no friends, you understand? We have no friends. Black people have no friends. We don't have a quote unquote minority coalition. Let's talk about it. Thumbs up, like, share, subscribe. Like, share, and subscribe. Here we go. Watch this. So I was just looking at that bill, the HR 40 bill, and they got it where the commission would be able to get $12 million to travel all across the country or the world or whatever to study reparation. Everybody else is getting the money besides the victims. It's just like these settlements that they get. You have all these attorneys getting the money. The victims only get $400. See, this is what we're talking about. We're talking about how this system is set up and designed. That's the reason why that there's not a minority coalition. Black people are on the bottom of every political, social, and economic situation. So it is time now to rethink these so-called Black organizations, the history then of what these Black organizations mean. When you look at their program and look at their website, there's nothing about Black empowerment. And so the old dead Black media, they're not going to call them out on that because they're worried about the advertising dollars. In fact, there is, again, you got companies like McDonald's and Target, I think, suggest that they're going to give $2 billion in minority-owned businesses. See, this is what we've been talking about. What the hell is minority-owned business? Black people are not a minority. You understand? We happens to be the founding race of this country. We were the first people to build the best economic system the world's ever known. That's the reason why everybody else is abandoning their countries to come over here. You don't need a minority coalition. You build the biggest economy in the world. So that's the reason why, as Amos Wilson taught us, that black people are made to be backwards. Don't be talking about you a normal black person when you know that you ain't got no power nowhere. Talk black to me. Listen to it.
All right, now, let's get into this Western Asia. I'm saying that the people who came from Western Asia escaping famine did not have any Hebrew faith when they came into Africa. And there's no record of a Hebrew faith before theirs.
Right.
Why is it that when they left Africa in the so-called Exodus, they had all three? African culture, an African religion, and an African language. Now look at the origins of so-called people you now refer to as Jews. You're mistaken using that reference because the word Jew is of European origin.
That's right.
And the people in Europe who call themselves by their name have no relationship to the biblical people.
None.
Of the Hebrew faith.
Right. And see that right there is very important. That right there is very, very important to marinate on. See, no connection. That's how the Jewish people of today is able to manipulate black folks by using the Bible. They have no connection with the Hebrews at all. You understand? So we basically, in a sense, now in the Bible, it tells you that the so-called white man in this country is brothers to the Hebrews in the Bible. Okay, if you hearken back on the debate that Brother Polite did with the Hebrew Israelites, remember it says that that he was like the white folks in the Bible, they basically were brothers with the Hebrews, is what was in the wording of the Bible. You have a master teacher telling you, okay, that the Jews, call yourself, the Jews in the Bible is a European concept. You understand? And we can look at it as far as saying, okay, well, that's just what the Bible says, or that's just what one specific scholar said, right? But what we're trying to get black people to understand is that all of this stuff is argumentative until you go back and listen to your master teachers. And your master teachers really breaks it down for you. Us arguing on a street corner, us going downtown arguing over it, and our master teachers are not involved, or we don't have any kind of way to make sure that their lectures are being very much interpreted, I tend to stay out of those debates. Because if the master teachers are not talking about it, it's not good. When this master teachers say anything, I'm listening. Because that's one of the reasons then why he can basically tell us that we have no friends. That's the reason why he can basically break down to us that this foolish talk of a minority coalition or a black and brown coalition, and black people are still, when you look at the programs that they bring to us, notice there's no resources, there's no money, there is nothing that black people get. And even the bootlicking, butt dancing, simple Negroes who've been carrying water for white power, even whether it be on a Democrat side or Republican side, cannot argue that fact. Let's talk about it. Okay. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. Go on now.
That the people we now call Jews entered world history with their visit to Africa. And when Africa was invaded, 1675.
1675. Okay? 1675, when they were invaded. Africa was invaded. Go on.
Instead of joining the Africans who had been their beneficiary and saved them from starvation, they joined the enemies of Africa. No one has ever returned any favors to us. As a people, we have always been hospitable to strangers, mostly the wrong strangers. And what we have to understand now, in the period of superior brainwashing, is there is no European answer for African problems. Either Africans find a solution to African problems, or there is no solution. And if you don't find a solution soon, you go back into slavery.
If you don't find a solution soon, you'll go back in slavery. That is the powerful of Dr. John Henry Clark message. See, the thing about this is that, see, we try to basically make coalition with other people. Okay, their solutions, if you look at their solutions, notice they'll give you like charity. They'll say, okay, let's bring some food over to you Negroes because y'all starving. And black people was like, oh, man, yeah, that's good. Oh, let's laugh and smile. See, that's nothing. That's a nothing burger. Let's knock down monuments. That's a nothing burger. What is that? No, we need resources. Because, see, the solutions to our problems, black people have to then basically understand that solutions to our problems is not going to be based upon a European concept. You see, their way of solutions have gotten us in the situation we're in now. And the black people who are on board with them, like these organizations, they're the same way. Watch this. Talk black to me. Watch this.
We have to stop all of this nonsense about who belongs to what religion when all of them were imposed on us in the first place. We stop all this fight between Muslims and Christians when neither one of the religions are doing them any good or moving them toward independence.
Right.
All of them are handmaids of conquerors. All of them are religions of conquerors. We were naive when we accepted their interpretation of something that we had all along. I'm saying we need to take a good look at ourselves. I'm not talking about burning churches. I'm not talking about getting rid of religions. Understand me well. I am saying that every single thing that touches your life, religious, socially, and politically, must be an instrument of your liberation, or you must throw it into the ash can of history.
Throw it in the ashtray. Throw it in the ashtray of history. Man, you see, here's the thing. You see, yeah, it's no problem with religion. Religion is fine. You know what I'm saying? You can have a religion. But when somebody gives you, like I said earlier, when somebody gives you their definition of racism, then you turn around and start to look at your own kind as being racist. And like I said, black people can't be racist because we don't have a political and an economic system to be racist. But see, we basically allow other races and other people to tell us, well, racism means you calling them a cracker. See, you're a racist. Are you calling them a peckerwood? Oh, you're a racist. Are you calling them these Asian people certain things? That's a hate crime. See, we're allowing other people to basically teach us that insults is racist. But all of these other races and all these other people do one thing against black folks. There's a history of them using us to get what they want. And then when they get it, they're gone and we are basically left alone. See, this is what we have to start understanding. You understand? And I wish I had more time to play more, because he was going to get into depth to talk about what Black people must do. One of the first things that he was talking about is that if Black people can't make their own underwear, if you can't make your own underwear, you understand, then, there's a problem. Okay. Can you make your own underwear? What is Black people now producing that is somewhat of quality, somewhat of a commodity, somewhat of value? What are we doing? We're producing. We're not producing anything. What is we doing productive? You understand? And I'm talking about Black men here. Let's move the Black woman away right here for a minute. I'm talking about Black men. I hear Black men all the time say, well, they won't let us. They won't. Who won't let you? Why haven't you been able to work with other Black men? Who won't let you do what? You see, as Dr. John Henry Clark taught us, is that we're our own people. We don't need people to give us permission to do nothing. Going back and piggyback what Nellie Fuller was saying. You're constructive when you at white folks' job, but then on the weekends you're doing stuff non-constructive. See, here's the thing, and it's okay to party. I like partying. I like, all the things of having fun. That's not the problem. The problem is we do too much of it. Not everything that we basically do. If we do a few of it, it's okay. But when people just do the same thing every week, that's a problem. That's how you know that this system got you, because you're not creating nothing. You're not building nothing. And then you get upset when a woman puts you on child support for kids when you're not taking the responsibility of raising them. You understand? And so that's what we have to start to then energize ourselves. Okay? That young man downtown here in Atlanta called me the black span for the black C-SPAN. He didn't call me that for nothing now. On this channel, we dig deep. See, that's the reason why Black people, when they look at the Black media, they look for entertainment. They look for yelling. They look for beef. They look for who is against each other. They look for, what's all the issues are. They look for, scandals like Umar Johnson. They look for all these other types of things. Rarely do they look for comprehensible strategy, analyzation, and looking at the hypothesis in order to determine what's going to be a solution to our problems, in a sense, you see. They don't look at all of the physical dynamics of any kind of solution to any problems and stuff. They don't look at things to look at how the European define everything as political. They don't look at what we can do in order to then stop white people for their oppression and killing us in the streets and producing our own justice without Hispanics, without Asians. And so this coalition of claiming that we have a minority, somebody on our teams, that means then that they will have to give us certain types of access to their businesses. If we're multiculturalized, you're going to have to then share with me a multicultural partnership in your business and your wealth. In other words, don't throw around multicultural and diversity, and I'm not sharing into the wealth of Asians. I'm not sharing into the wealth of Hispanics. I'm not sharing into the wealth of the Jews. I'm not sharing into the wealth of the gays. I'm not sharing into the wealth of the LGBT community. See, that takes us in order to have a minority coalition, you have to also share what? Your wealth with me, your resources with me. You see, you can't just talk this Black and Hispanic coalition without having them to share the resources. See, that's what they don't want you to believe. Black people try to go out here and survive without resources. Okay. Now, I promise you also in the YouTube live there that we're going to be talking a little bit about the 1921 Tulsa race riot here. And let's go to that real quick because we only got about 15 minutes. In 1921, Black people have built a big economy in Tulsa. Racist, they were kept us out of the markets. We built an economy within our neighborhoods within months. In 1921, white rioters in Tulsa, Oklahoma burned down a prosperous African-American enclave and killed many of its citizens in one of the largest race massacres in U.S. history. White mobs invaded the city of Greenwood District after an encounter on an elevator sparked racial violence. In a span of some 12 hours, the striving community once known as Black Wall Street was wiped out. The 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre, as it known, comes after a year of racial unrest across the United States, perhaps bringing even more focus on memorialization, the horrific event of May 31st and June the 1st of 1921, when 35 square blocks, more than 1,200 homes, businesses, and churches burned down. The damage totaled more than an estimate of 2 million at the time. It is still unclear how many people died. You understand? You see, we had a striving economy. Instead of Black people wanting to run for office, and I'm not saying that Black people shouldn't be running for office, but we have to focus back on Black Wall Street. We have to focus back up on building this economic system. And see, it was only less than 20 million people back then that did this. Now we got an estimate of 40-something million Black folks, and we ain't done a damn thing since. You see, stopping this lie of a minority coalition to join a Black what? Majority coalition. Watch this. Watch this. Thumbs up, like, share, and subscribe. The essay is almost over, family. Here we go. There have been many groups then that says that they want to start back up Black Wall Street. They have been listening and understanding that, of course, it takes resources to do so. The problem that we have in the Black community is that everybody want to do their own thing. But see, when white mommy and white daddy come along, we're all on board with white mommy and white daddy. We are willing to basically be state representatives, police chiefs, working in their jails and stuff. The thing about that is that we're able to build back up Wall Street and find Black districts in some of these major Black cities if we really focus on it. Amos Wilson did a book called Blueprint for Black Power. And in those 800 pages, he analyzed the connection between Black wealth. He then told us that there's no such thing as Black banks. You cannot take the Black bank route. All due respect to Dr. Umar Johnson and others, a Black bank is just like a white bank with Black people running it. There's no such thing as bringing Black people to use the same policies as white folks, thinking that you're going to be successful with a Black bank. All due respect to Killer Mike. Here's the issue. We don't need a Black bank. What we need is to do what we did in the 1920s and 40s. We're talking about solutions now and building Black credit unions. Black credit unions, of course, operates different from banks. The black banks have shareholders, and the responsibility and the profits goes to those shareholders, as it opposed to credit unions, where the people who invest in these credit unions are the shareholders. And for every person who's putting a $5, I think $5 or $10 that you have to put in to join a credit union, owns one share of that bank, of that credit union. So we have what you see, Koreans had the mercantile, or what Amos Wilson called a mercantile minority. He knows that they have basically said, okay, well, we're in this country called the U.S. We're not back home in South Korea or North Korea. We're not back home in Asia. We might as well work together in this country they call the United States. And of course, white people did not want Asian, Chinese, and other people in their neighborhood. So they found a coalition within the black community. And they basically exploited the black community and then convinced us that we are all the same. But the problem is that there is minorities like Asians, Hispanics that have businesses. And the brother is out there sweeping up the concrete in his neighborhood. You see, I have a problem with that. You understand? I have a problem with that. I have an issue with that. You understand? So the next time somebody tell me about a black and brown coalition, I'm going to show you the video of brothers who are sweeping the sidewalk of these stores. See, that's your black and brown coalition right over there. You mopping up somebody's urine in the bathroom of that Chinese restaurant, and they're paying you some chump change. No. That's not diversity. That's an insult. And so therefore, we have to remove ourselves away from this foolish talk of a black and brown coalition and stop allowing white people to tell us and giving us symbolic symbols to justify their racism and to allow that to be their apology of what they have done to us. And so now these old bootlicking Negroes, these civil rights leaders, and all these old Negroes who don't like their children, who have thrown their children to the wolves. And I got the data that we're going to be presenting for our new website, which we call the Black Bureau of Investigation, where we're studying all of this wrongdoing that they've been doing to black people for years. The police brutality. There were some brothers and sisters who went to the United Nations and asking them as a group collective when they study the U.S. You know, the United States is not a part of the international court. You see, that's how arrogant these people are. You know, they want everybody else to be found guilty of crimes against humanity. And they themselves are not being charged with crimes against humanity against black folks when these race soldiers kill us out in the streets. Where is our minority coalition then? Where is when Peter Liang shot Akai Gurley? The Asian minority coalition said that, even though that it was wrong, we're still going to support our own. So much of a minority coalition. The Hispanics, when this Felisto Castillo, when he shot when Felisto Castillo was shot in Minneapolis, I think it was in Minnesota. The Hispanics basically supported that police officer. Understand? And of course, when these white supremacists shoot down black people, the white supremacists always make up excuses to justify the shootings and murders of our people. So, brothers and sisters, we have no coalition. Our own togetherness to bring about change is the only thing, as Dr. John Henry Clarke has warned us and taught us. ScrewTube have us on a shadow ban, we know. But we cannot then lose focus on the fact that our wealth, as we said, are going to be ending. By year 2035, Black people will have no wealth. They will only be relying upon jobs. And that is going to then bring us a crisis. By 2035, as one sister said on a YouTube video, she said that we have to start planning. And we have to start planning real quick. Because if we're basically at 1.8 trillion or some people say 2.5 trillion now, and we're going backwards, where do you think the 2.8 trillion or 2.5 trillion or whatever, whose pockets is that money going to? You have Jim Crow Joe Biden, who decided to give 11 million undocumented immigrants legal citizenship in the United States. And he's proud himself of saying that these 11 million people should be citizens of a nation that they did not build, a nation that they did not contribute to, and a nation that they basically don't know. So they were able to abandon their own nations to come over here to get all kinds of benefits and rewards for things that they never ever fought for. This is your Black and Brown coalition. This is what the Democratic Party represents. You see, we know what Republicans represent. We don't need to basically study them. It is always, as Malcolm has taught us, it has always been the liberals that you really have to worry about, because they can confuse Black people very quickly. And Black people not knowing their history and their culture, and it just being ignorant and foolish, then they're then be able to manipulate. I was talking to a female the other day, and she talking about, I wanted my sons. She's raising 2 sons, and we had a good conversation. And she talking about, well, I send my son to this specific school because I want him to be able to get along with everybody, and I want him to be able to, to learn better. Well, that's the stuff she said. See, this is what we're talking about. You see, we're trying to figure out, why do you need to go to a white school in order to teach, to have Black children, learn from different schools, like the hood can't not teach your children that 4 + 4 is 8. Let's go. Okay. But anyway, family, that has been today. Subject matter, like, share, subscribe, and leave your comments at the bottom. You be having history lesson when we're coming on. A history lesson means that we have to see the future. We have to understand the future. And the future is uncompromising. We have to be able to basically do something now and understand that there's no minority coalition, that Black people have to create their own coalition to do for self. And that's what our leaders been telling us to do all along. Okay, so let's close out this video essay. Like, share, and subscribe. And also, hopefully, we can get more website on the Black Wall Street Initiative. I think that they're doing some stuff like that as well. So the Black Wall Street Initiative will be very important for us. Now, if y'all donated to Dr. Johnson's school, y'all also need to donate to the Black Wall Street Initiative. So I think we're going to use some YouTube links there. And it's nothing, I'm not a part of it. I'm just basically saying that it's a good idea for us to do that. Okay? With people who are already, black folks who are already doing it. Okay? I'm very leery that they start bringing everybody else into it. They start bringing this coalition. I'm going to be very kind of leery on donating.